it's increasingly difficult to say anything nowadays. For example, I learned earlier this week that Tinge is out. But I do want to say something, and I want to call out Mr. David Lammy for criticising Stacey Dooley's piece on comic relief, which has directly and exclusively, and no other factors are involved, led to a drop of £8 million in the total donations between last year and this year. Mr. Lammy, you have to understand that events that raise money for charity must always be held above criticism. For example, a few months ago, my husband set up a trade deal selling arms to Saudi Arabia, and we gave 1% of the profits to Stonewall. I think the Saudis believe we're going to stone people against a wall. The point is, you can't criticise something if it raises money for charity. I, for one, was going to send in a cheque, had it all written out, and then somebody told me that no, a white woman has been criticised over this, and I thought, we're all in this together. So I spent the money on myself and bought this rather lovely necklace. It actually cost me rather more than I was planning to send in, but I'm not worried about that because I'm looking forward to the windfall of cash I'm going to receive when those lucrative trade deals with Liechtenstein and Papua New Guinea kick in post-Brexit. The thing is this, though, Mr. Lammy. Whatever you're up to, always remember this. When it comes to stopping money going to the poorest and most needy in our society and around the world, you're never going to measure up to us. The Conservative Party have been doing it for years, and we're great at it. So move along, sunshine. Leave it to the big boys. So the thing is, I think David Lammy made a really, really good point about the comic relief coverage, and I really hope that TV producers listen to what he's saying and think carefully about the way that they present these issues in the future. I think that would be great. And actually, I think David Lammy's made some really, really good points on a lot of issues recently, especially relating to knife crime and the police and, race relations more generally, talking about the Windrush generation, all sorts of really, really important issues. And so I kind of want people to stop having a go at him because I think he's a very compassionate, caring individual who's got some important stuff to say. But I just can't deny that I personally am still mad at him about something he said in 2012. In 2012, he said that we should bring in legislation which would force women to name the father of their child on birth certificates. And again, I get that this comes from a really caring place, from a place of wanting to say that children are the responsibility of both parents, not just the mother, from a place of wanting to say that both parents should be involved and that kids benefit from having, more than one adult taking care of them. I get that it comes from a place of compassion, but it's just not a very well thought through idea. So it overlooks, for starters, the fact that the vast majority of rape and domestic violence in the UK is not prosecuted and doesn't get to a conviction. And so there's an absolutely real chance that you would be telling women that they have to write on a piece of paper the name of the person who's abused them, and then potentially that person would end up with access to their kid, and actually with the potential to then effectively continue their abuse by controlling the woman because of their rights to the child. It seems to me that if you're a nice guy and you've convinced a woman to do those things that result in her getting pregnant, is it too much to ask that you just are enough of a nice guy that you're still friends with her 9 months later? I think that's quite a good barrier to set for the kind of person who we want being an active, involved parent of a child. Secondly, it overlooks the fact that people might not want to be named. And if you are in a difficult, problematic relationship with all kinds of problems and somebody doesn't want to be named, are you going to write their name down and risk the situation escalating? Or are you going to write down the name of someone else, which of course then negates the whole point of the exercise? It's totally fine to be a single parent. And actually, I think we need to recognise that the people who make the best parents are not, that list is not the same as the people who are biologically related to the child. Great parents come along sometimes halfway through a child's life, and we should recognise the role of step parents and aunts and uncles and family friends and neighbours and grandparents who are taking the role on, and all those other amazing adults who are part of a child's support network, and just take our focus off of this like biology argument, because I don't think that's what's important in 2019. And it also overlooks the fact that some people quite legitimately don't know who the father of their child is, either because it's somebody they haven't kept in touch with and don't have full contact details for, or because they've been dating several people and they don't know which one has got them pregnant. Those are both absolutely possible. Yeah, and I feel weird that I'm still mad about this 7 years on, but it's just one of those things where I just wish you could stop for a second and think about women and how women might feel. And if it ever does come into legislation, and if you ever are affected by this, women, here's a little bit of advice. If they force you to write down the name of the father, just write David Lammy. I'm pretty sure after the first 6 random children start knocking on his door, asking if he can maybe pay for their university education, he'll decide that this was a terrible idea, and he can get back to making all those really nice, important, lovely points that I would really like him to continue making.